I'm going to go back to when I was 19 years old, and I had not had any hot summer nights at all. But a friend of mine had asked me to work at this summer camp. It was a summer camp. I didn't hear Beth's story, but I did hear her say cerebral palsy. So this was a summer camp for people with disabilities, and I had never worked at a camp like that before, but it was an amazing experience for me. And I loved all the people there, and I was in love with several of the counselors there, and it was the last night of the season, and there was a tradition at this camp where all of the campers would sleep late on the last day of camp, and the veteran counselors would sleep late too, and the new counselors would serve them breakfast. And so me and this new counselor, Shelley, had volunteered. We'd magnanimously volunteered that we were going to cook breakfast for the entire camp in the morning. We were going to make omelets, custom omelets, made to order for everybody in the camp. And we made that announcement to the whole camp, and then everyone went to bed, and then this night began where everyone kind of was celebrating. It was the end of the summer, and this one counselor who had this big crush on named Lisa, she came up to me and she said, "Hey, do you want to go down to the yurt?" And there was this there was this yurt down at the camp, and it was like this kind of hippie structure, and I was like, "Sure, yeah, I'd like to go down to the yurt." And I get down to the yurt, and it was like she had just done it up. Like, she'd put candles around the side, and she put down these yoga mats, and it was fucking awesome. I mean, it was like fucking hot summer night right there. And there was like a bottle of red wine, which I was not very experienced with drinking red wine at the time, but we drank the whole bottle, and it was like out of every 19-year-old's fantasy. And then in the morning, I'm woken up by this little guy with Down syndrome named Stevie Long, and he's pulling on my ear, and he's like, "You said you were gonna make omelets. You said you were gonna make omelets." And I'm looking around, I see this empty bottle of wine, and Lisa's next to me, and I'm like, oh God. And so I throw on my clothes, and I run up to the dining hall, and most of the camp is sitting there at the tables in wheelchairs, and they're like holding their forks and knives, and there's no omelets for anybody. And so there's like this big flat hot griddle. You're probably familiar with it. It's like in diners, and it's hot. And so someone had bothered to like cut up the various ingredients. So I'm start taking orders for omelets. I'm like, what do you want? And cracking eggs on the hot grill, and I'm doing my best to make these omelets. And Shelley is nowhere to be found. She's had her own hot summer night, and so I'm making these omelets as fast as I can, and I'm sending them out, and there's like onions and potatoes and various things are sort of wafting up at me, and I'm thinking about this hot night I had with Lisa, and all of a sudden this wave of nausea passes over me, and I barf onto the hot grill. Like this really strange, like red wine and like whatever I ate last night just like hits the grill with like a sizzling sound. And for a second I sort of look at it with sort of scientific curiosity, you know, like it's like vomit being grilled in front of me. and it's sort of bubbling in front of me, and then I look behind me to see if anyone noticed what had happened, and no one did. So I'm trying to think, like, what's the best thing to do right now? Like, do I let it sort of cook a bit and sweep it off, or do I tell everyone that I just barfed on the grill, and custom omelets are done, you know, like, or what? Like, I can't. So here's what I decide is I'm gonna let this omelet cook for a while, and because I figure it'll sterilize itself, and so it cooks, and Shelly comes in at that point, and she's like, I'm so sorry I'm late. And then she looks at the grill, and there's like this red wine barf. And she's like, what the fuck is that? and I go, shh. And I sweep it off the grill, and we proceed to make omelets for the rest of the camp. And everybody enjoyed their omelets. And I am proud to say that I became the director of that camp. And I never told anybody that story. Thank you.